So when we talk about what we call energy cultivation in Taoism, we're talking about dual cultivation. Oh, now it's letting me stream into the group. Fantastic, because last time it didn't. Yeah, we talk about something called dual cultivation and solo cultivation, which probably you can probably guess, right, that dual cultivation is with a partner and solo cultivation is going to be just cultivation on one's own. I know there's some people here who are my students or clients, some people here who've gone through the whole entire program with me, some people that are new here, but hopefully this is going to be informative to basically everybody who's coming here. And yeah, okay, so some of these things I can help with, some of them I can't. I will say I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on something I don't know. I don't know how to tell two gay men how to have sex together. I'm not going to pretend to know. So if people want to say I'm uninclusive for that, that's a shame. But this is just, basically everything I'm going to be talking about this evening is all based on Taoist theory, mainly based on Taoist theory. And the topic, I decided to call it like sacred, juicy intimacy. And really, like, if there's one message that you guys can take away from this, I really want you to know, like, you absolutely can have it all. Oh, I made a mistake here. I need to pin myself first. Okay, you absolutely can have it all, you know. To gain in one area, we don't need to lose in another. I think it's really, really important to kind of be aware of this. And ultimately, when what we're doing is we're getting balance in the whole relationship, both with self and with the partner, because the two are very much interlinked. We're creating a situation which is just win-win-win for everyone. If you have any questions while I'm talking, feel free to type them into the chat. So I'm starting off here and I'm talking about intimacy formula because this really is like about a formula that works. It goes step by step by step. You can go in it at beginner level and stay at beginner level and get benefits from it. You can go to intermediate, to advanced, to world class within this system, depending on how seriously you want to take it and how much you want to get your results, how much, let's say, how much energy you want to put into it. And it's not for everybody to take this, I think, to the advanced levels. I think especially like given our society and the general goings on in our society. But even if you can take away from it the fact that this stuff exists and it's really, really amazing and most people don't know about it, I think that will be a bonus. But hopefully there's some other exercises you can take away from this. So and I know that someone had put the question about asking things about multiple partners. I mean, when people are doing Taoist energy cultivation, they tend to just want to be with one partner, because if you work a lot on your energy, the last thing you want to be doing is like spreading it out to different people. So I would say, you know, I'm one of the few people probably talking about sex that thinks that, you know, a one-on-one relationship is the best way to do these kinds of practices. But of course, like, you can do these practices and you can have different partners. Just, I would say pretty much everyone I know that's doing these practices, having a lot of partners. As they went further down the line, they just decided they wanted to just stick with one person because it worked a lot better to do the exercises in this way. So discover the key to reliable intimacy that increases as the years progress. giving both connection and personal fulfillment on the most profound levels imaginable. So let's look at this, like I'm calling it like an intimacy blueprint here. Oh, this is me on the right. I'll let you see me. Hang on. With a, you can see there's a little flame by my womb and a heart by my heart. Okay, it's going to come up in a little bit what that's all about. So let's look at these like 8 steps. And by the way, can I invite everybody? You're more than welcome to screenshot this, and if you'd like to screenshot and share on your story and tag me, I'd be more than happy to have that if you thought you were having a good experience and you learned a lot tonight from this. So relationship with self. So I've put down these kind of 8 key stages, but there's more than 8, but at the moment I just put down 8. So relationship with self, emotional wealth, vulnerability, heart connection, conscious communication, conscious touch, sexual reflexology, and sexual transmutation. So what authentically benefits you also will benefit your love. You know, they say that the best lovers are meditators. And, you know, I'm just going to add to that. By the way, what we're talking about here is about energy, and it's very pragmatic. I hesitate to call it spiritual, and I think trying to be spiritual has definitely got a lot of negative effects to it, actually. However, when we just understand the order of it and how this was created by, you know, nature, by a divine hand or whatever, that it all fits together and works so perfectly, it's all just pretty amazing, you know. So whatever authentically benefits you will also benefit your love. So literally just working on oneself can have a huge impact on one's relationship. I sometimes work with couples, and generally I work with just one of the parties. With this kind of a work, when one of the parties balances their energy, I have situations where literally people have been on the verge of very expensive divorces and worked with the energy and found a huge transformation, and the relationship actually got essentially saved just with one person working on their energy. So the energy field is like super, super powerful. It's an amazing, incredible way to work. It's why, for example, acupuncture, which works on the energy field, can heal so many different problems that Western medicine can't address, because when we can go into the energy field, it's just so powerful what we can do. And actually, this is going in much deeper than acupuncture. So sexual energy is the physical form of the energy of love. And I'm going to come back to this a few times, because we often hear these things like, oh, all you need is love, right? Or, you know, where there's love, there's whatever. You know, people talk about the relationship broke down because the love went away. Usually, very often, it's not the love that went away. It may well have been the sexual energy and the sex life that went away. Okay. And I'm a big proponent when we're talking about sex. It's really important we're honest about things, we're clear about things. All this use of innuendo and use of mixed messages is very unhelpful towards getting any kinds of benefits. Really, you know, if we're not talking properly and clearly about sex, how can we expect it to work? If you went for surgery, you wouldn't want the doctor to just go cut down there. You want him to be saying exactly where the muscles are and whatever, you know. So sexuality is also a gift from the divine to keep us together, to keep us happy. And I just put there the art of sexuality. You've probably heard me say the art of the bedchamber. Ancient people really realized this was something as an art that we can take to deeper and deeper levels, and we can just continue to learn throughout our whole life and to grow and to develop. And that's a journey I'm definitely on myself. And okay, I just put, who am I here? Okay. And just before I start as well, or talking about myself, don't want to talk too much about myself, but just to introduce me, I have studied and practiced Taoist alchemy for over a decade. Through this practice, I managed to blow the lid off of my anorgasmia and simultaneously cure chronic health problems, addictions, and start manifesting creativity and abundance. And, you know, I'm going to be really clear. I wasn't born some enlightened person. I did put in a lot of work, and I did a lot of work from having a very traumatic childhood, massive abandonment wounds, acting out in all kinds of different ways, considered a problem child, you name it, you know, and just having a lot of just trauma related issues, which obviously have our ability to experience intimacy. And I had tried so many different remedies and cures for all these different problems I had until I discovered this, which really just, you know, I mean, when we have traumas and when we have these certain issues or karmic issues or whatever we want to call them that come up in our life, you know, it's not like they're just going to go away, right? You know, it can be, we can change things a lot in our lives, but if we're going to sit there and go, I need to wait until I'm totally healed before I get in a relationship, before I start my business, before I start being a positive influence to people and so on, this is really, really rubbish. I mean, if you or I had an accident and we cut all our legs up, both our legs off or something, you wouldn't just say, sit in bed until your legs grow back, you know. If someone, and I saw a guy that actually traveled around India in this bike, not bike, a wheelchair, where he's doing the wheels himself with his hands, you know, and he had no use of his legs or whatever. And I think that when we start looking more at these emotional things, that they're not some, you know, having whatever your wound or wounds are, you know, this isn't something that makes you a damaged goods. It doesn't make you irreparable. This is just part of who you are. And when we understand about transmutation, we can actually understand, okay, these things, we can actually transmute them and use them to make our lives better instead of them being like a kind of a handicap or something. So I just want to make that really clear. This is not about, you know, trying to pretend you never get angry. It's not about trying to pretend you're someone perfect. It's just about being very, very real and very human in the human experience. Of course, we make mistakes. Of course, we want to do damage limitation with the mistakes we make. But, you know, I think that striving to be perfect or pretending to be spiritual enlightenment and so on, I don't think it's really helpful for anybody. So just so that you know, I studied with Taoist Grandmaster Mantak Chia. I'm a certified universal healing Tao instructor. I've also studied with a lot of the other Tao instructors. As well as that, I'm a certified Tantra educator. I've worked with thousands of paid clients, and plus many, many more people who I've also had impact and influence on their life through talking about these Taoist principles, which sometimes can actually come across as quite controversial to modern sex positive culture. I've had people get quite upset that you wouldn't think about things I've been saying because people don't understand. And sometimes you got to pause and you got to think twice about what's being said, because this stuff, like, I think if we're going to talk about a sex positive culture, I don't know if there's anything more sex positive than Taoism. But it's not quite saying the same thing that we are being taught by the conventional sex positive culture. In fact, I would say that much of, you know, depending what you consider to be sex positive, you know, but some of the things that are promoted to us as sex positive, I think porn is a great example. There's nothing wrong with images of naked people and so on, but when something is enslaving a large amount of people and interfering with people's abilities to form healthy relationships, because it's doing the same thing that sexual oppression did, which is disconnect the heart from the sexual energy. And I'm going to be talking about that in a minute. So that's me here with Master Chia. And I put this disclaimer, and I really want you guys to listen to this, because when we talk about these practices I'm talking about, there's certain exercises which you could say were beginner level, then we can go into more intermediate, more advanced, and so on. I know there's a lot of books about this. Some of you have probably read those books. I'm not a huge fan of those books. The reason being, a lot of people have tried to copy those exercises out of books, out of YouTube videos, and a lot of people have, in various ways, sometimes more obvious, sometimes more subtle, caused problems to themselves, or they've done the exercises and been, it's not doing anything. It's kind of crap, yeah. I think the main purpose of the books is to let people know that this exists, but these are really powerful energies and powerful exercises. When you get to a certain point with them, it's really, really important. And obviously this comes from a certain culture, from Taoism. This was passed down from master to master to master for thousands of years in China. Master Chia is the last master, that he's teaching many of us about this, and he's very, very specific about it needs to be done in a certain order, in a certain way, and you need to have someone guiding you through the process. I certainly started with a guide. I wouldn't have thought about personally trying to do it without a guide. These powerful energies can be used to heal and grow on a deep level, but incorrect use can cause severe side effects. You will go away. I'm not going to tell you to do anything today that's going to cause you severe side effects. But if you think something I've told you to do has, definitely get in touch and let me know. You will go away from this with exercises to get started with. Yet most of what I discuss cannot be learned in a single day, and trying to practice it is likely to do nothing at best. At worst, obviously, the Taoist practices that we look at are taught in specific ways and in specific orders. Malpractice can result in serious and permanent health problems. And I do work with people for several months before going into most of this stuff that I'm going to be talking about, by the way, as well. And that's like a minimum period of time, I would call it. So I give an overview of advanced level practices so you know that they exist. However, you should learn these with a qualified teacher. So we're kind of going in today a little bit on basic level, right? Now, for those of you who feel like something you're interested in learning a little bit more, getting a little bit more intermediate, I know that you should have received emails about a giveaway, right? And just send me a message on WhatsApp if you're interested in the giveaway, right? Which means receiving a free masterclass. Let me just put the number in there if you don't have it. Yeah, I've got a little bit more advanced resources on like so many different topics and subjects. If you're interested to take this a little bit further, you can send me a message there on WhatsApp. So everything that I'm covering here is based on the work I do with my clients. And I also offer free 15-minute consultations. Maybe my assistant can put the link for that in the chat, or you can WhatsApp message me. And just saying, yeah, this is complex stuff. In another way, it's very, very simple. It's all about learning to cultivate, transmute, refine, and store energies. These exercises like have a lot of benefits. When I discovered this stuff, I was like really, really in a mess. I mean, I literally doubt I would still be alive today if I didn't discover this stuff. I'm not joking, and that was why I decided to work with this, with people, because of the incredible effects it had on my life. And then when I started seeing with my clients, like amazing results as well, sometimes happening within 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, not just in the person's sex life, not even necessarily just in their own personal life, but through the whole of their life. So for people who want to take on the discipline to start putting this stuff into their life, it is really, really amazing. And this is actually one of my clients. He came to join me. He was like a really spiritual guy. He'd been doing all these different spiritual stuff for like about 5 years. But what had happened was his relationship with his wife had gone like so downhill. There was this young kid involved, very expensive house and other assets. which would have been a really nasty divorce. And they got in such a bad situation, either of them would open their mouth to the other, and it was just all that was coming out was this resentment, bitterness. They didn't know where it was coming from. They loved each other. They just couldn't have a good relationship, and they did not understand why. Okay, so this is 5 weeks in. And he says the transformation is already beyond anything I could have possibly imagined. Before starting, I knew I needed something fully embodied, based in reality, not bypassing sexual energy. Big problem with spiritual is bypassing negative emotions and sexual energy. These are really important for us. I had no idea this actually existed until I experienced it. This is the change all of us are seeking and needing if we truly want to be free and live this life as true expression of who we really are and the sex. So yeah, I mean, he actually messaged me, I think, on that week, and he was like, Jade, we've had more sex in the last 2 weeks than in the last 2 years. And yeah, sex is super important. A lot of other things are important, but sex is very, very important, but not in the way a lot of people think. So I'm going to go over these 8 points, which I think might have turned into 9 or 10 points by the time I finish the slideshow. But, you know, numbers are just, you know, they're just relative, right? In a way. So all relationships start with ourselves. I know that this is true. I know that this is such a cliche, but many people don't fully get, but it's so true. The depth of self-knowledge and the work you have done on yourself, the level to which you understand, forgive, and love yourself will be reflected in how you can connect with others. And I really cannot overemphasize how much, when people are doing a lot of this typical spiritual work where they're repressing their emotions and pretending to be this like spiritual person, and you know, there's nothing wrong obviously with like being a balanced person. We all want to be balanced people, but we want to be real about who we are. We don't want to be like fake people, and we all have this fakeness in us. We all can be fake. It's been programmed into us. There's no shame in it, you know. But when we start actually looking and going, hey, this bit of me is fake, this bit of me is angry, this bit of me is this and that, we just get to this point where we can be much more human and much more real, and not have both judgment to ourselves and judgment to others about the way they may be experiencing things as well. In Taoism, we talk about the connection between the self, the divine, and the beloved as 3 prongs to the same wheel. Each connection feeds the other, and the more developed they are, the more deep connections we can benefit from. So working on connection with ourselves, with our body. Yeah, this isn't about just, you know, spiritual connection with ourselves. This is also about the real connection with the real body, you know, and there's many parts to it. You know, it can be going and working out, getting your muscles aching, getting yourself hurting. It can be, meditation where you're getting into the body. And Taoist meditation is very much about getting in the body, the relationship with the body, with the sexual energy as well, and connecting to the divine. And I think this has got to be just in a way that really feels real to you, however that's going to be. And so Taoism talks about these 3. So Taoism literally talks about the universe having this violet light that's a big part of, you know, we can ask the violet light to balance the energy within the body. And actually, like, this violet light is something then that the science is now talking about as well. So you can type into Google violet light, universal violet light, and it actually shows you these images, which are pretty amazing looking. So understanding our own energy, your own development, and response to life situations is what allows you to understand others as a tool towards deep connection and juicy intimacy, which brings us to the E word. You know, so just, I can't overemphasize, we will never be perfect beings, but we can be a perfect version of our imperfect selves. And that's what we want to be. And when we're just being ourselves, we're going to attract in the people that are going to like us for who we are. You know, it's programmed, deeply programmed into us to conform, to obey, to be people pleasers, to act like cardboard cutout because supposedly it's going to make everybody happy, but it's not going to make anybody happy, really, to be honest, least of all ourselves. So, you know, let's have a look at the E word, right? Emotional wealth. Our culture teaches us that emotions, negative, are inherently harmful and need to be repressed. And I remember as a younger person, you know, being in an intimate situation with someone and bringing up some emotions, that person getting really, you know, wanting to talk about feeling, you know, and that person getting really agitated and being like, oh, you're putting me off sex, you're making me not get aroused anymore by talking about emotions. And many people can't actually bring emotions and sex together. And when I'm going to be talking in a minute about these two models of sexuality, which are called adrenalized versus the alchemizing version models of sexuality. But because in our culture, we're not taught really much about sexuality, we don't really understand it. People go for how do you get aroused? Okay, let me put on some porn, or let me like stare at her ass or whatever, you know. And people are trying to create an arousal in a way that's actually goes against our original programming of how we get aroused, which is actually through love. And the way that we are, let's say, sexually wired up in the autonomic nervous system is it's kind of complex in the fact that all we need is for one factor in this chain of signals to mess up, and we're going to start getting sexual problems, we're going to start getting intimacy problems, and so on. So it's really important that the various levels are fulfilled, you know, one of which is feeling safe, and that actually goes to men as well as women. So getting back to the slides here, so what this means is that we hide big parts of ourselves and are living in a program of fakeness. I mean, and we can go through life and not really even understand what we're doing. And of course, there's layers to it. Each one of us is partly real and we're partly fake, you know. There's different levels of it. And, you know, sometimes we're fake. Okay, that's okay. Now, I remember doing this Tantra course, and I've been doing all this martial arts, qigong, Taoism, and everything. And you learn to be very kind of strong in yourself. But I remember this guy in the Tantra course, and it was like, he was just finding like every little button to push, get me like crying. And I was sitting there crying for like hours on the sofa. What it felt at the time like this guy was just like almost bullying me or something, you know. And then he said, Jade, you're so lovely when you're just being vulnerable, you know. And I actually got quite sick for a couple of weeks after, which can happen when you're like releasing emotional stuff. But that moment, or that few days or whatever of interacting with this friend was really brought me aware of how important it is just to be myself. And in fact, I'm going to go soon into an exercise, which is going to be the first exercise. Hopefully you can write that down. The first exercise I want you guys to take away with, which is going to be around practicing vulnerability. So I'd say it comes a little bit more maybe from Tantra than Taoism, but it's super important. So Taoism understands that emotions are an integral part of our self-development and healing, including the negative, which are gifts too, and have important roles in our progress through life. Negative emotions are really important. The more you honor them, the stronger you'll be, the happier you'll be. The problems we get with negative emotions is actually because we try to repress them, not because they're there. So negative emotions are a catalyst to take us on a journey. They are great teachers. Much of the reason we resent them is that we are taught they are bad, which means we get stuck in them instead of progressing along the journey. So actually, if we've had like a trauma and we're healing from a trauma, it's actually necessary to go through the different negative emotions, and each one is going to take us to a new place. I don't want to go into too much detail about that, but definitely look out for my 3-day challenge that's coming up at the end of this month if you want to know a little bit more about this emotional stuff. So the problem is when the emotions get blocked into our bodies, And this is very common because we are taught to be scared of traversing their pathway. And this is what I'm just saying there about earlier about bypassing, spiritual bypassing. You know, when we feel a lot of pressure that we're supposed to be this perfect mom, perfect woman, perfect at our job, perfect, you know, whatever, we're not supposed to have certain feelings. But this is all part of what makes us real. And it's just the human condition, really. So this is really important. Sexual energy is an amplifier. Yes, it will amplify your emotions, positive and negative. This brings things to your attention that you can heal if you have the tools to do so. So I always, before raising sexual energy up the body, which would amplify whatever's in the body, I go through some weeks, almost several months, 2 months of working on emotions, at least a month of working on emotions, because otherwise you're going to, in a very powerful way, start amplifying things that you didn't know were there, that was hidden. And then you can end up feeling just overwhelmed by stuff, basically. So let's have a look at like emotional blockages. What are emotional blockages? I don't want to spend too long on this, but each organ gives us a desire or a spirit and a purpose, and out of these desires come our feelings. So like the heart makes us want to connect with others, which gives us love. And if we're not connecting, we can get the hate. The liver gives us the drive to create in the physical dimension, which gives us anger, because anger is actually a drive that gives us confidence and healthy boundaries until we start to repress it. And that's when it comes out as rage and bitterness and so on. So even these negative are actually gifts. And just an explanation here. Hopefully you have this worksheet, the genital reflexology worksheet. But just to understand that each emotion, the emotions are stored in the organs, and the organs relate to the 5 elements. So we can see we have the positive, like in the heart, we have love, in the spleen, trust, in the kidneys, which is the blue here, the peacefulness. You should receive this PDF later, but there's the genital reflexology worksheet that explains this all quite well. And then we also have each positive has a negative other side to it. So you can look at liver, where the positive includes, which is the green here on the left, the positive includes kindness, forgiveness, benevolence, gratitude. The negative, anger, jealousy, frustration. And these are just 2 different forces that we want to have balanced. We don't want to get rid of all the negative. Actually, we want to balance the 2. And that's what makes a healthy, well-balanced person, not getting rid of all the negative. Okay, amazing. Vulnerability. I think this is part 2 or part 3. Okay. One thing I've learned is that the greatest gift in life, the biggest luxury we can have, is being able to be oneself, to be authentic. When we have a whole lifetime of being told we got to be anything but who we really are, this can seem tough. It's really, really stressful on ourselves. We've been put under so much pressure to be people that we are not, to pretend, to play a game, you know. It's really difficult. It's really difficult for all of us. And I think some of us, we don't realize even how much stress is on us because of this situation, especially when we did a really, really good job of conforming. When we are inauthentic, all we're really trying to do is please others and to do the right thing. Yet it's impossible to connect deeply when we're not being ourselves. We then end up connecting from ego to ego, and it's insincere and unfulfilling. And when I say here ego is usually a really, really nice guy. It's usually a people pleaser. It's usually actually that voice there that's trying to limit you from going big and from greatness and from achieving your dreams. This is what the ego is. It's a protective mechanism, and it thinks, oh, if Jade goes out there and puts herself out there, she's putting herself there in a place where she's not safe. Someone might criticize her. Someone might think this about her. isn't it better she just stays at home and just hides away and doesn't put herself out there? This is the logic of the ego. You can just think it's like an overbearing parent who really cares about you in their own little special way, but they're completely limiting you and stunting you and stopping you from living your life. So vulnerability is a practice that needs to be developed. Even if you're incapable of it right now, you can start to practice and slowly develop your skills and confidence. So let's do a little vulnerability exercise. If you can just try and like jot this down somewhere. Yeah, you're going to have this sent to you. Oh, yeah. Al is a client, and he says here, he used a powerful sexual energy to heal his shoulder after surgery much faster than the normal after rotor and torn bicep surgery. I mean, this stuff is amazing. Like if there's ladies here, or probably guys know about this too, that well, when we get blocked sexual energy, I might as well go briefly into this, is we're having a lot of pressure. We're literally tensing our pelvis. It's blocking up the flow of the lymph. For guys, this very, very often comes out in prostate cancer. We tend to only hear prostate and then a bad word. How often does anyone have a good word to say about the prostate? And then we wonder, why does the prostate get sick? You know, but I was diagnosed, like probably many women are, with this, what they call abnormal cells on your cervix, and they want to do something. And I'm just like, I don't really want anyone doing anything to me. And I went off and I used this stuff and I basically healed it, you know. And I remember the doctor was really like kind of pissed off that I healed it myself, you know. But even one lady like that I've been working with, that she come to me, she's like, Jade, I'm so sorry, I haven't been doing the exercises properly. I haven't been doing them as often as you tell me. I feel really bad about it. But there's one thing I want to tell you. It's really amazing. So she'd gone through like several years of being told she had this cervical problem. They wanted to take parts out of her body. I don't quite remember all the details, but she'd been going like every month or two to get these tests. And she was just like, you know, not wanting her to do something and cut part of her body. And she's like, that problem is just completely gone. Everything's just gone back to normal. So when we start learning how to really use this energy to heal, it's really, really powerful. So I struggle with emotional overload that take over the actual actions at times. This is really, really normal that people struggle with overload. You know, I will just say, I used to get totally overwhelmed with overload. Now I learn to deal with my emotional overload. And I have to say, like, doing Tao practice has made a huge, huge, huge difference. So I'm hoping, Nat, that you found the subtitles there. So now what I want to know is, okay, let's do a question on a scale of 1 to 10. Everybody answer this, or I'm kicking you out, okay? All right, joking, but I want to hear an answer on a scale of 1 to 10. And you can send it direct to me if you're embarrassed for everyone to know. How vulnerable are you capable of being? 1 meaning you're like a brick wall, 10 meaning everything's flowing and you can just be vulnerable as anything. I might be like 8, I'm guessing. Oh, everyone's more vulnerable than me, or equally or more. Okay, vulnerability is like a muscle, basically, you know. It's like, and all of this stuff, it's like a muscle, the ability to use our intention to channel energy. It's like a muscle, but I would say it's even more then it's different, because, you know, there's some people, like, for example, my partner is an athlete. I mean, I can train, I am strong, but I will never be an athlete like him, you know. But he's been an athlete since he was a kid. So, you know, partly it's all the work he's done, partly it's his genetics as well. Whereas when it comes to energy cultivation, anybody, you don't need to be intelligent. Anybody who wants to do it can sit down and learn how to do it if you're willing to put in the exercise and the practices. So, okay, a lot of people say they're high up, fantastic. I also think that sometimes we rate ourselves like in different ways, but you know, So imagine this, right? Now, if you want to, do you want to increase your ability to experience vulnerability, to be more vulnerable, to be more authentic, to be more intimate in the true sense? Give me a 0 in the chat if you want to increase your ability to do that, because that's what I want to give this exercise about. Okay. Let's do it. Okay, okay. This is actually something I learned from one of my Tantra teachers about vulnerability. And it's like this, you know, when you're talking about something and then there's something and you're just feeling, oh, I shouldn't say that, yeah? And it's probably the thing that you should say when that feeling comes up, right? I shouldn't say this. Now, the thing we've got to remember is not everybody we're going to be talking to has got the same capacity towards intimacy that we do. You know, so some people, you start going on and talking about intimacy, some people are going to love it and thrive off of it. Other people are going to kind of freak out about it. And that's okay, right? People are at where they're at. And some people can grow their ability to be more intimate, and other people just won't want to. So it's important that we actually gauge, like, where is a person at? We don't want to, you know, you can mess around with the person and push it a little bit, you know, but for example, if you're not used to being intimate at all, you're not used to being vulnerable, you know, you're really, really nervous about it, you can even start honestly and kind of make something up and just test someone's reaction. You know, bearing in mind, yep, some people are open, other people are not. You know, if someone's like totally not open with it, okay, it's cool, it's fine. They don't have to be, you know, we don't need to force this onto people. At the same time, other people, we're going to find they're more able to be vulnerable. So this is like your homework. One of your homeworks is like, go off and practice with people, like being vulnerable, practice like talking about stuff. And you can almost like, this is actually like when I have clients that I advise around like dating, this is what I actually tell them, like, just forget about you know, thinking about, am I going to sleep with her, is it going to be a date, am I getting friend zoned? Just throw all of that stuff out the window and just be yourself and start being vulnerable and start talking with a person. And just, you know, you can meet people on dating apps and just make it like an exercise to practice this, like, you know, being vulnerable thing. And yeah, let's add like a little Taoist hack in there. Okay, that's really, really good. I'm going to address that in a moment. I want to just add a little Taoist hack, you know, that when we're being vulnerable with a person, you know, when we center in on the heart and we can like even smile into the heart and like make a little connection, feel our heart like glowing a little bit and waking up. And we say there's a spirit called the Shen in our hearts, and when we like connect in and maybe can feel that little spirit, the Shen, and feel it coming up into the eyes, and when we smile and, you know, center into the heart and get that little feeling, and then share from the eyes towards the person and talk with this centeredness in our hearts, it can really like help our ability to be yeah, to be vulnerable and to also form a connection with the person, because this is what we really, really want. Is we don't want to just spout stuff onto someone and tell them all our childhood traumas and then have them go away just like you know, we want to create a connection. We want that person to be opening up back, right? You know, and someone made a really, really good point here, which I think is like, she's having a high capacity for vulnerability, but her partner gets overwhelmed by strong emotions. So I often constrict my emotional expression with him, which I think affects our intimacy, like our ability to be emotional and our relationship with our emotions. It's very important part of of intimacy and connection with another person. Now, when it comes to like expression of emotions, I think also there's a way of like, if we think an emotion is energy, and when we're not holding the emotional energy within our bodies, it can come out as a strong expression, which can be overwhelming for someone else, if that makes sense, you know. And something I was just talking about the other day in a meeting with clients is when emotions come up and we feel this stuff, if we go in the head and we start thinking, no, that's not what we want to do. We want to go in the body and we want to feel it, and we want to go into the center of it, like we're going into the center of a storm. And then we're going, hey, that's cool that I'm really angry and sometimes I just want to blow the world up. It's cool that sometimes I'm so scared to just go anywhere. I don't want to see anyone. I think a meteorite's going to drop on my head. You know, it's cool to go, I was abandoned when I was a kid, and every day I think that I'm going to be abandoned and I'm so afraid, and I'm going to just spend my whole life hiding, you know, from that fear and pretending it's not there when it's there and it's dominating everything that's going on for me. Or I'm afraid that, you know, I'm going to mess up my life, I'm going to let everybody down, I'm going to lose my money, I'm going to end up on the street, you know, all these fears we experience. But I think really like starting with ourselves and doing that work and getting like to a comfortable place with our emotions. Personally, I find like using Taoist alchemy is like the most powerful, rapid way to start using and transforming those emotions. And I definitely recommend, if you're doing Taoist alchemy with sexual practices, it's definitely important to do with the emotional practices first as well. So I hope that was helpful. Okay. So someone says, if my partner goes, yeah, if the partner is in an ecstatic state and you're feeling cold, you're not getting to the same state, you know, obviously, like, we are complex beings. We are different, you know, it's a sign that there's blockages going on within the body. It's really tough for me to say, you know, I wouldn't even try to say right now what that blockage might be. I would say you're more than welcome to book a free 10-minute consultation with me, and we can try and like go over what's going on with that. But yeah, it would be like some kind of a blockage, and a blockage may make a person seem like they're really, really overly sexual, or a blockage could make one feel shut down, or it could make one go hot and cold, or you can have sex but not love, or you can have love but not sex. These are all different forms of blockages. They can play out in so many different ways. And in a sense, we all play out our blockages in like unique ways, different ways. You know, we're all unique beings. But yeah, sorry, let me just check what's going on there. Yeah, okay. All right, so let's get back to our next slide. Vulnerability, amazing. Okay, let's move on to, okay, I just put here the emptiness. Yeah, let's not, you know, be in denial about it, because intimate relationships with another is a gift from the divine. They're designed to connect us deeply with another person, to stay together for life and to raise children. This is an evolutionary thing, that parents need to stay together for the best interest of the children. And after all, nature is divine, and it is so perfect. Everything about the way we're designed is really perfect. And I hope that by the end of this, you see that much more clearly than you already do. So it's 100% possible to literally have it all, be best friends, have great sex, amazing communication, magnetism that gets better and better. And when any one of these parts, or even things I haven't mentioned, is missing, we feel annoying emptiness. It's because our souls literally long for the oneness. And when this isn't fulfilled, we're agitated and our energy gets drained. You know, often this can be like when our partner isn't fully connecting with us, there's like resistance. You know, there's something missing you want to feel and it's not there, and it can really cause can really like affect us in our happiness and our well-being. So if we understand how to work with sexual energy, we can literally have it all: the chemistry, the alchemy, the magnetism, arousal, mind-blowing orgasms, deep connection, and unrivaled love. Oh, by the way, there was a video, a short video I wanted to just share quickly here. 2 minutes video. I just want to show like how can this stuff actually work, right? How does it work? Yeah, it works. Yeah. It's sometimes even a mystery to me, but it seemed like these ancient people, they wrote this all down and figured it out. So just have a listen.
My name is Amir, and I have worked with Jade to learn about dating and female psyche and how to approach women. And I come from, I think of myself as kind of a nice guy, and I've always been scared of being considered a nice guy by women, and always felt like my friendly nature is gone against me because I've ended up in friend zone. And because of that, every time I've approached women, I've tried to act like a cool guy and be wacky and maybe be a bit offhand, because I've heard that women like bad boys and so on. So sure enough, that's always kind of had women like running from me, you know, be really off-putting to them. And I always felt like, you know, what's wrong with me? Why can't I, you know, attract women, the kind of women that I like? And when I spoke to Jade, it's really kind of brought me present to the fact that, you know, there's nothing wrong with being a nice guy, nothing wrong with being a friend. And this is a misconception that when you're in friend zone with women, you can never escalate that to something more kind of intimate. And so I kind of started, actually, it really made me rethink. And I'm going, you know, what if I just be me? Because, you know, I'm a nice guy. You know, why don't I treat a woman like I treat anybody else, you know, like just a human being, and be gentle and consider what they feel, you know, and just get in a good zone with them and good vibe, be able to basically vibe with them. And this is really became really apparent to me working with Jade. And you know, sure enough, after that, I met somebody in a festival as a friend, and I really, you know, I didn't create any kind of pressure on her, and I was just really like talking to her like I would talk to anybody. And things just built up gradually, and I never really tried to rush anything, and I just allowed for the friendship to grow. And when she started feeling safe with me, she just opened up, and she became my partner, and she's still my partner. It's a very, very beautiful woman. I would have never expected to be able to attract somebody like that before. I would have, by my behaviors, I would have put them off way before that time, when things just warmed up naturally. So, yeah, and yeah, I've met this woman that is wonderful. And, you know, she's very beautiful, very attractive, very spiritual, very kind, loving. And then definitely this work with Jade is massively helps with that situation. So I'm really, really grateful for that. And you know, if any of you are thinking about, you know, doing any work with her, I definitely recommend her. She's really good at what she does, and she comes from a place of heart. And she's a very strong woman, very powerful woman. So I definitely recommend it. I hope this has been of some benefit, and I wish for you to gain more insight into this realm, because it's definitely very, very positive things and help you with yourself and life in general.
Yeah, so I'm going to go into this in a minute, because we women, we don't.
Here, in a sparse rocky landscape.
Okay. Sorry. So yeah, I think this is really important that, there's so much people talking about, oh, women want bad guys and so on. It's not that women want bad guys, but the nice guys and the good guys tend to repress their sexual energy. I mean, okay, traumatized women is probably going to maybe be getting into these relationships with bad guys, but if you're feeling like I'm a good guy, I'm a nice guy, I'm a good guy, I'm not getting what I want because I'm a nice guy and a good guy, the solution isn't to be wacky or whatever, it's be yourself. But also, when you cultivate your sexual energy, you're then creating magnetism with that person. So, for us women, we're just not going to feel attracted if there's not energy. And the same to some extent the other way, but especially for us women, we need to feel some energy for our arousal mechanism to work, essentially. But everything I taught that guy, it was all based on doing exercises around self-love and around just being himself, nothing about trying to manipulate or trying to play mind games or whatever with people. It's all literally about just fall madly, crazy, deeply in love with yourself. That's all where it starts from, So let's have a little look at shame and sexuality. This is a really big issue in relationships. It's often so deep within our bodies, we aren't even aware of it. But ancient people saw sexuality as a sacred way to reconnect to others, heal and regenerate their bodies, access wisdom, direction, their destiny, and spiritual purpose. Modern society sees sexuality as inherently risky, something that needs to be suppressed and hidden, and yet at the same time, it's shoved in our faces in a soulless way 24/7. Your average 13-year-old has watched hundreds of videos of women being abused sexually, and they think they know it all, yet they have no idea what his sexuality is about. Sexual energy, ancient people knew, is your divine creatrix energy. It made us, but it also powers us through life. This isn't just in the nice feeling we get. That nice feeling is a superfood for your soul that has the power to permeate through your body and heal you at the cellular level, activating your alchemical process, and I think, like, when we want to get real about sexuality, it's really, really important that we actually look, on the one hand, we're being told, oh, the sexuality is bad, you better hide it, you better suppress it. And then on the other hand, oh, but you have your needs, you better watch porn, you better jerk off, you better whatever, or it's so contradictory, the two sides. And it's like going from one extreme to the other. And actually, what this is all about is finding a nice place in the middle where you're really comfortable with it and you're really able to access it. So, anyone having sex to fulfill their needs is missing out on most of its benefits. We do this because we don't have a good relationship with sexuality, and so the energy builds up as pressure. Then that pressure is what we are releasing sexually instead of building love. This is the main reason why we sometimes go away from sex with a less than great feeling, why most relationships end up sexless. When we learn to work with sexual energy, we can make sure that we are alchemizing and sending across energy that is going to be received well. It's also a reason why it's important to work on our own energy alone, so that when we are together, we aren't just dumping our bad energy through sex. And yeah, as I said before, my experience with people is like one person doing this work is enough to generally fix the relationship, unless it's really not meant to be. So let's look at, like, what is chemistry versus alchemy. Most people know about arousal from a place of chemistry. This is a turn on based on superficial arousal that sometimes is trauma bonding. Ancient cultures like Taoism talk about alchemy, which is conscious working with energy to cultivate, transmute, and bond. So this might be about spending a longer time to get together. So even if you know someone, there's a lot of attraction, there's a lot of energy, the longer you can sit with that energy and sit with that attraction and sit with the sexual feelings before you become sexually active together, actually, the more powerful your relationship is generally going to be. While chemistry fades, alchemy grows as you work more and more with energy. Alchemy takes the focus from stimulation by external means to internally working with the energy. So it's like the difference between, you know, many people be like, oh, he doesn't turn me on, oh, she's not good in bed, rather being, how is my relationship with my own sexual energy, rather than relying on the external for it. So the benefits are far beyond being just about pleasure. There's a big shift in consciousness and even improvement in health through this practice. So I put here like sexual types. Okay, maybe a funny word I used there, but talking about adrenalized sex versus expansive sex. So adrenalized sex is all in the genitals. There's rapid breathing. It's hard and fast. It's focused around the clitoris, or ejaculation and release is the goal. When we look at expansive sex, we call it Taoist sex, Tantric sex. It's about the full body, slow breath. You're slow, you're not moving. You might not even touch each other. You might just sit and look in each other's eyes and have full body orgasms. And connection. It's about expansion rather than contraction. And this is the one on the left. This is the one we know. This is the one we see portrayed in the media, the Hollywood, Netflix, and so on and so forth, generally. But this is a whole real different experience. And if you have any inkling of this, you know, non-ejaculatory, not using the clitoris type slow sex, you'll be aware that what starts to happen is this whole expansion of your consciousness in a very, very profound way. And this is what we're talking about here. It's the expansive sex, which keeps, it just keeps getting more and more and more powerful when you're consciously practicing it together. So sexual and frustration, because there's so many, like if you're typing a text to someone and you put sexual, it always comes up with all these kind of negatives suggesting sexual abuse, sexual frustration, I don't know what problem. Yeah, sexual problem. Excuse me. We associate sexuality with frustration and urges that are considered to be a negative. This is not what sexuality is about. This is blocked sexual energy. So it's not natural or necessary to feel sexual frustration or unpleasant urges. Sexual energy is actually innocent. It's pure. It's life-giving. It's the fuel of love, and it is here to create connection with yourself, your partner, and the divine. Sexual blockages are purely the result of belief systems. The most twisted pedophile is just someone with blocked sexual energy. The sexual energy we think of as bad is just stagnant energy. Continuously repressing your sexual energy will leave you with health problems, unable to feel love and connect. So, of course, we think of like in a negative way about excessive expression of sexual energy, which I would say it's what we are thinking of. This is actually sexual energy trying to unblock itself and acting out in unconscious ways, because the sexual energy is very vital. I use that term, the superfood for the soul. We need it to come up into our body and up into our being. If it's not coming up into our body, we're literally being cut off from the life force. So it's going to try to act out, you know, in ways that perhaps we'll feel we don't even understand, we don't feel good about. This is the stagnant, blocked energy, which most people experience to a greater or lesser degree. So let's have a look at like example of healthy sexuality. Oh, I just wanted to give an example there. And it always makes me chuckle a bit when I think about something this guy said to me, and he was a client, you know, and he said, oh, Jade, you know, I was sitting on the chair in the office today, and I was just looking down at my dick, and it was just so hard and so erect, like it hadn't been so hard for like at least 10 years. Yeah. But at the same time, there was this feeling like there was no urge. There was like, I didn't need to do anything. I could just sit there almost like a god and just look at my hard dick, my super hard dick, and just enjoy it, just being there, you know. And this is really like the result of having the energy unblocked, that you have the access to the sexual power, but it's not controlling you. You are the master of it because you understand it and you know what to do with it, just like having a well-trained dog. So according to the Tao, healthy sexuality, according to the Tao, it is essential that these energy centers are connected. And that I think I might have put the next, no, there's supposed to be a slide before this one, and I think it's got mixed up and it's coming further down, but I'm talking about love energy in the heart and sexual energy in the sexual center. So according to the Tao, a healthy sexuality is these energy centers are connected, and that the energy is flowing up and down and transforming. So the love energy in the heart and the sexual energy in the lower abdomen, where the womb is on the woman. So you can see this in tribal people who walk around naked with no sexual morals, but they have no sex crimes. So there's examples of societies where they don't repress sexuality and people are actually have very healthy sexuality. Today we are taught that sexual organs are dirty, that we need to hide them and our sexuality. On the other hand, we're given porn and taught that we have our needs as if it's some kind of a mechanical milking that we need to do. And I think that when sex becomes mechanical, it's like losing most of its magic, and people treat sex so mechanically, like this mechanical milking we need to do, you know. Even just the other day, I think I wrote about this on my Facebook, right? You know, that I was walking along with this friend. He's going, oh, I like this sexual technique and that and so on. And I'm all into sexual techniques, don't get me wrong. But when it's just down to techniques, you know, and he's like, oh, what do you like, Jade? And I said, well, honestly, I like feeling like a really great connection. That's what's really important to me. And he was like, oh, yeah, I kind of get what you mean, you know. Well, you know, the results of, you know, both stereotypical so-called sex positive and the old tradition of, well, it's not the old tradition, because old people way back thousands of years ago seem to have had a very good relationship with their sexuality. Let's say the medieval idea of repressing the sexuality, they're both like one and the same thing, because they're stopping us from being connected with our sexual power. So couples that heal together stay together. This is really, really important. By moving beyond adrenalized sex, which is the sex that gets boring in the end, you start to enter into a deep state of healing. Authenticity, self-awareness, and vulnerability are essential to be able to understand and navigate the first steps of emotional healing. You know, and we don't want to be having sex from one ego to another ego. Come on, yeah, that's like not fun, is it? So energy work will bring up emotions. Sexual energy work will bring up emotions. It's essential to also do the energy work to heal the emotions, so that you don't get overwhelmed by them. So I'm saying, if you're working with this system with the sexual energy, also use this system with the emotional energy. Don't use the different system with the emotional energy, because it's all like pieces of a puzzle, step by step by step, how it all fits together, and then it gets very very quickly to the destination. So once that you start on this journey, you can allow the sexual energy to start to activate your consciousness on deeper and deeper levels. This will allow you to grow and expand both individually and as a couple. So, heart magic connection. The heart is the energy center for love in our bodies, and it actually has a spirit called the Shen, which gives us a deep desire to connect with others. The heart is a transformation center that allows us to transform sexual energy into a powerful form of love. And this is a form of love that's not just when we say, oh, love, yeah, okay. This is like love that's super magnetic and super, super juicy when the sexual energy is coming up into the heart and it's transforming, because then it's creating a purple energy instead of a red energy. And if we connect with someone just from sexual energy, we're likely to get it wrong or cause something not quite in alignment, right? You know, it doesn't tend to work very well for building like a deep connection when we just connect from sexual energy. What we want it to do is come up into the heart, transform, and then spread across to the other person. So sexual energy naturally should rise up the body into our heart, where it combines with love and alchemizes into magnetism. And when you look at, like, you can pretty much say like all westernized people influenced by Christianity, also Islam, this blocks the sexual energy. People influenced by porn as well does the same thing. It blocks the sexual energy from the loved energy in the heart. Also being taught to repress our emotions causes this big buildup of negative emotions. It blocks and it stifles the flow of energy. So repressing sexual energy is also going to block this meridian, and most people in the West will have this meridian to a greater or lesser degree blocked. Most people is maybe working at 10 to 20% of what it could be working at. So imagine like the difference when it's actually bringing you all the life force, you know, that you're capable of having. It's pretty profound, not just in its effect on ourselves, but in the way we stand and connect out in the world as well. So the heart is really, really important. So love and sex. Oh, I think this was the slide that was supposed to go before the other one. Sorry about that. According to the Tao, healthy sexuality is comprised of 50% love and 50% orgasmic energy. These energies emanate from the heart and the sexual center, which is where the womb is in the woman. The heart center contains red energy, which is love, and the sexual center, blue energy, which is orgasm. For the sexuality to be operating at its ultimate, there needs to be a strong connection between the two, moving the energies up and down, distributing the energy between the two centers. This flow can be interrupted by any belief system that separates love from sexuality. For example, the belief that sex is dirty, or that others or oneself are sexual objects, or that sex is just about getting off, or fear of love is another one. These will all interrupt the flow of this energy, performance anxiety as well. Now, okay, getting on to the next stage. So communication is everything, both verbal and non-verbal. Non-verbal communication, also being able to read body, is really, really important. It's essential to develop skills with reading body language to be able to practice sex scientifically. And I'm a big, big believer in the longer you take, the slower you take. Better not to have sex than to have it if it's not 100% yes. Better to stop, better to think, better to wait, yeah. Because we all have so much complicated, complex stuff going on within our bodies when we're just rushing around sexually with different people, or even with just one person in a relationship. It's not allowing all this process that the sexuality can offer us to basically develop. So many guys go into having sex without being a full yes, because maybe they're worried that someone's going to think something of them. They're maybe thinking, oh, my friend's got all this body count, I don't have the body count. You know, women can do so for other reasons. A yes isn't so simple. If someone says yes to you sexually, if you actually stop and question them, I bet you're going to have way better sex in the long run than just being like, oh yeah, they said yes, let me just rush in and not worry about what's their body saying, what's their soul saying, what's their energy saying. You know, many people say yes for reasons other than from the soul, like fear of being thought of as not sexually experienced or competent. It is important to know if your partner is freezing. Are they fawning? Because if you're having sex for reasons other than the soul, the pleasure won't last. It's really important both for men and women, and men to really be aware. Everyone's talking about women's getting their boundaries violated, men, not people talking about this going on with men. And I think all of us, we need to take ownership, that we need to be responsible and really know what do we want and be empowered in our no. Yes, we've all done this. We've all gone into sex we didn't really want to do, been pressured into sex. I'm sure that guys here have as well. Most of us will have done this, most of us. But I just think it's so important that when we are really clear and we are taking ownership, we're much more likely to get the sexual experiences that's really, really going to be fulfilling for us. So by learning the language of energy, you infinitely increase your ability to read and communicate with the other, because we have a very powerful ability to communicate non-verbally with other people. And when we're using that, which is in the energy realm, it makes a huge difference in our relationship and sexual connection. So in terms of verbal communication, I find that it's generally better to be honest with someone and talk honestly and vulnerably. However, I'm going to say there, and I could have done several slides on this, but I just don't want to start going there. I think some understanding of basic psychology and energetics as well is important. And also, we as women, we so often make the mistake that we treat a man like he's a woman. Men are not women. It's a big mistake. Sometimes men can treat women like they are a man as well. I think especially we as women, we have a lot of work to do about actually really genuinely getting to understand men's experience. And everyone's talking about how men need to get to understand our experience, and I agree with that too, but we have that same work to do as well. And when you really start seeing it, it's actually very, very different, the way men, whether you want to call it psychology or something else, the way men and women tend to look at the world. And obviously, bearing in mind you have, non-binary, transgender, and so on. But in general, we tend to fit into these two categories, and being aware of them, but also being aware of our inner masculine, our inner feminine, whatever physical our body is manifesting as, it can be really, really helpful. So I'm not going to go more into that. So getting what you want. People often talk about the nice guy versus the bad boy and how women go for the latter. The problem is that most nice guys are actually repressing their sexual energy instead of channeling it, which means there is no magnetism. We women don't actually want bad boys, but we need to feel magnetism and sexual energy to be aroused. And I think this is like, there's loads and loads of decent guys out there, and they often are complaining that they're missing out on getting a woman, or getting the right woman, or getting the right situation. And basically, it's all about the connection with the sexual energy, because we're kind of taught that, either you're kind of, letting it all go wild, or you're repressing it. But this is this third way, when one is actually channeling and really building and building and building the ability to hold a lot of sexual energy in the body. Is very, very powerful thing to do. And most people can't hold very much sexual energy at all in the body. But the more we're able to hold that, the more we are basically going to be able to manifest. Obviously, we'll manifest where our energy's at, which is why we need to work with our emotional energies first. But the more we're able to manifest. So sexual energy isn't the dirty thing our culture makes it out to be. Is actually the divine physical manifestation of love. So sexual energy is really the most powerful spiritual energy that we have access to in the physical dimension. And I think it's so important to be really, really clear within ourselves and aware about the different, when we have different beliefs and different programs playing within us, which are believing that there's something wrong with sexual energy, we're going to somehow be manifesting with that. And if we're absolutely, truly in absolute awe of sexual energy and what it is, this is absolutely key, is absolutely essential. This is just so sacred and so divine. Masculinity, femininity, these are expressions of the divine, you know, that we experience, and they're just like incredible, amazing gifts. Like, as the Taoists say, superfood for the soul is amazing. So sexual energy, yeah, it's actually the divine physical manifestation of love. It's just that we are out of touch with its power. Nobody's teaching us what this stuff is. I remember doing a masterclass recently and saying, who gets what I'm saying? Sexual energy is the most powerful spiritual energy, and half the people got what I was saying. So that meant half of the people who actually went so far as to come to the event was still a little bit unclear what I meant. So yeah, attracting a mate and great sex has nothing to do with looks. It's not about having a huge cock. It's not like about having a big wallet or a Porsche or whatever, you know. It is about your energy, and this is what women are attracted to: energy that makes them feel safe and makes them feel aroused as well. Okay, so let's start looking at touch. And it's a really interesting one, and I'm sure everybody can relate. You know, you could be sitting there and one person can come, put the hand on the shoulder, and you can be like, hey, yeah, nice, you know. The next person puts the hand exactly in the same way, and you're like, oh, get off me too, you know. And a lot of people don't understand that touch, there is a whole science in and of itself. When we touch another person, we are transmitting energy. That's why people can respond really negatively towards touch. It's unfortunate because I believe as humans, we are meant to touch each other a lot, that we suffer when we're not getting touched, but people obviously feel unsafe about touch. So we may find we're not getting the desired result with touch, which is because we are not transmitting energy in a conscious way. When our body is full of blocked and unconscious energy, we are transmitting that out into the world. It is not that we have to be perfect, but people are really sensitive to energies. And when we devote a bit of time into self-improvement, into understanding ourselves, there's a huge shift in how we are received. Touching with energy awareness and knowing how the energy flows through the channels is key to arousal and to taking sexual intimacy to the next levels of pleasure. So, you know, it's like the whole body really is a sex organ. Some people say the brain is a sex organ. That's true as well. You know, people can have absolutely orgasms from without any kind of a genital touch, from body touch. And when we learn the way to touch the body and activate and open up the body, it's really like a powerful thing to do. So let's have a look then at sexual reflexology. This is really interesting. I hope you guys have like my genital reflexology worksheet that explains a little bit more detail and gives you some diagrams. But just as the emotions exist in our organs, they also exist in the sexual organs. And it seems nature designed this to allow us to heal and release energy through conscious sexual connection. The influences of sexual repression and porn culture has led us away from sexual alchemization towards friction-based sex, meaning sex and masturbation isn't healing as it should be. In fact, it can be increasing blockages, and it also can throw up and amplify things that people don't quite know how to deal with. So these points have been inactivated in most people. If one of the partners learns to activate themselves, they can activate their beloved too and learn to deeply heal and reconnect through this energetic exchange. I'm guessing a lot of you guys will know about this. These are my little diagrams I designed. Feel free to screenshot this if you didn't yet. But it's very, very interesting how there's different areas that we're going to say these areas release negative energies. So what's really, really interesting is that if the penis is all the way in the vagina and it doesn't move, all of these points are connecting up, and it's like a key fitting into a lock. And when one of the people is energetically activated. There's a huge activation that actually happens. And I do believe like most sex is supposed to be just going inside and not actually moving. And that when you're able to work with energy, you can do that. And it's really, really like amazing and incredible. So this is like a form of transmutation. There's different forms of transmutation, but I think the next thing is like, yeah, well, let's look at really classic Taoist sexual transmutation. So the movement of sexual energy is up the body is the most powerful way of transmuting. There is a science to this where you can learn individually how to move this energy through the centers and transform it. So, I mean, before doing this with a partner, you want to have your own practice with the energy, and you want to have got fairly proficient with it before trying to use it with a partner, because it's much more difficult to do it together with a partner. So it's really good to practice it on your own. And do be aware, you know, if you are practicing it with a partner, you can also be amplifying things in the partner that maybe they didn't quite expect to have come along as well. So it's really important to be like able to understand your own emotions and so you're able to like hold space with the partner as well. So it takes several months to learn this, maybe 2. The benefits go far beyond having multiple orgasms, having full body orgasms, because this energy can be used to heal the body at a cellular level. And the deeper you go with it, you find it's a superfood for the soul that you can use to grow your creativity, expand your consciousness, and increase your energy levels, amongst many other things. This practice is about having a deep shift in consciousness that allows you to open up your consciousness and experience being a human in a new and a deep way. So according to Taoism, we have this like alchemical system in the body. This is like a kind of a diagram. I'll explain it in a minute. We have these 3 energy centers in the belly, in the heart, in the third eye, and some energy meridians. And essentially, according to Taoist theory, our purpose here on a certain level is to just get this alchemical system working properly. And when this alchemical system is working properly, everything within and around starts to work really, really well. So, you know, I don't know if you've ever watched any of my testimonial with clients, but there's a few of them and they're talking about working with me and then saying, well, this abundance is coming into their life, all these things that didn't belong are just kind of falling away by the wayside. Of course, because when we balance the within, you know, the without starts to just reflect what's going on within. So we are created out of sexual energy, and we're created from an orgasm. Within us, as an organism, this is the source energy that feeds our meridians. You may identify connecting with this as the horny feeling you get between your legs. The natural flow of this energy, which is called Jing, is to rise up and to transform in your belly from the feeling of horniness to a feeling of vitality as it becomes Qi energy in your lower dantian. So this is the first transformation center. It's by the navel, just here. So imagine when someone is getting a lot of stuck in kind of sexual frustration, the energy is only partially moving up to the first energy center. And you can see here a bit better, like the 3 centers, the abdominal dantian, the heart center dantian, and the head dantian, which we also call the crystal palace in the third eye. So alchemization, the natural process is to move through the 3 energy centers or dantians, transforming from feeling horny to feeling energized to feeling love in your heart. As this energy reaches your heart, it meets the red loving energy and transforms into purple energy. So that's what I was talking about before. And interestingly enough, this energy actually comes in different forms. There's different forms, different levels at which you can work with sexual energy. You can work with it on a spiritual level. You can also work on it on a really physical level of the orgasmic energy as well. And it's important when you're learning to go through the different levels, starting with the least volatile and then building up to working with the orgasmic energy, which can be extremely volatile if you don't know how to channel it. So As this energy reach, okay, we did that. The connection between love and sexual energy is vital for our sexuality to serve its purpose. So when the energy comes up and it comes up into the heart center, that's when these really like deep layers of magic start to happen. You know, we can say, okay, that's when we start having like multiple and full body orgasms, but it's much more than that. The transformation and shift that you feel happening. And in fact, when one goes through this activation process, by the end of it, in many ways, you don't feel like almost the same person anymore. And you need to change a lot of ways of things you're doing, especially when it comes down to sex, because you just feel very, very different. So I think we kind of covered this, but yeah. Okay, energy blocks build up when we experience emotions that we do not process. Another word for this is programming, because we're programmed with trauma. So we're traumatized even just by things like neglect from a young child. And this causes us to experience extreme emotions, which you then cannot handle. And it starts, the result is that we start running off of a program, which is not our authentic programming. So if we look in the world around us, we just have a lot of people just running off of these programs that are not authentically their programs. The typical block is around the pubic bone, consisting of lumps and bumps and discomfort. It's caused by shaming about sexuality and occurs when we tense up to keep the sexual energy down. Another very common is under the heart. It's caused by fear of love, and it develops due to lack of healthy affection from parents as a child. So these are things that get in the way of the process of alchemy, and people can do a lot of work and still have these blockages. And it's literally been programmed into all of us. Like we've all experienced this. Many of us do still, to greater or lesser degree. It's not an unusual thing that people have this. This is how our society programs us. So puritanical culture is designed to block these energies, but porn also plays in the same dynamic because it separates the love from the orgasmic energy. So that is the end of my slideshow. And okay, do we have any questions? Anybody want to say anything? I see a question here. Let me just look at this. So from previous slide, deep desire to connect with others. But when the others we wish to connect with is not working, it does not get very healing. Thing is, I do think like sometimes out of trauma, we have this really desire to connect with someone and it's not working. I think that in those situations, we need to just focus on to connecting with people where we are able to connect with. Of course, there are ways we can work to activate a connection with someone else, but basically it's sometimes we are doing this trauma bonding thing. So I recently had a breakup with a partner because he wouldn't have sex with me. He told me that he had no problem having sex with people that he had no feelings for, but because he cared about me, he was unable to get an erection. And when he would get an erection, he would not share it with me. If I made any sexual advancement towards him at all, in a soft, in a loving way, he would become angry and would start shaming me. Yeah, I mean, people have so much stuff programmed into their subconscious about sex being dirty, sex being shameful, sex being just, you know, and a lot of people will never ever do the work, you know, on themselves, and they'll never come into awareness about it. So like there's loads of people shame, you know, each other about sexuality. People tell men their dicks are too small, that they're no good in bed. People shame men for coming too quickly. I do believe, like us as women, we can very much teach our man to last in bed if he doesn't know how to. This is not, you know, shaming people about things. Men feel ashamed literally about being men, about having penises, you name it, you know. Women feel ashamed if they show their sexuality. Men shame women for showing their sexuality. Parents shame their children. People shame each other. There is a lot of shaming of sexuality, and so that's something, like, I think also that when we ourselves work on getting into a sacred, good relationship with the sexuality, what happens is that first of all, when people shame others for things, there tends to be, they pick up on some energy that's an easy place to poke and cause a reaction. And unfortunately, people are kind of animalistic in that way. So, you know, when we get more confidence and more in touch with our sexuality, people tend to less be likely to say, to try to shame us. Also, I think we're more likely to attract people with a kind of like a holistic attitude towards sex. But I really think, you know, whether this is people suffering from sexual trauma, severe sexual trauma, I think that so much of the healing, it is about reconnecting back with the sacredness of our sexuality and understanding this is the creator divine force that created us. You know, we as women who have wombs, we have vaginas, you know, men want to go into our vaginas because they want to connect back into the divine. That's what guys, you know, we say guys are all thinking about sex and so on and so forth, but our society is like stripped bare of meaningful spirituality, and this is how they can get back to the divine creator energy, by going into our vaginas. You know, at the same time, when a man is activated his sexual energy, when a man is activated his penis, he has the ability to heal a woman in a very, very deep, incredible way, not even necessarily having sex with her. When a man has like balanced his sexual energy and done healing work, just his presence with a woman can be like incredibly, incredibly healing. Let's get back on these questions here. So someone is saying, I seem to only be attracted to people that will hurt or hate me. And I tend to treat people with that way until they do either attacks or abandonment. And there can be a lot of, I had this abandonment issue. I was abandoned by my parents. And I remember my first few relationships, I would just get to some point and I just jump ship and abandon the poor guy. Until I started to maybe get a little bit more aware and conscious about things, and, you know, attract to people that will hurt or hate me. And the thing is, if we're treating people that way, they're likely to treat us back in that way. If we treat someone hurtfully, they're likely to be hurtful back to us at some point. So it's like you're creating there a self-fulfilling prophecy, you know. And in terms of what's going on with that, like, you know, I think we all need to, you know, every one of us, we have traumas, we have terrible, horrific experiences, so many of us, you know, even people who aren't saying they had some trauma, you know, when you look at it, even just the fact of growing up in our society and the way we're treated is so far away from what we as a soul is expecting to receive in this world. It's traumatic, you know. So we all have these traumas. We've all been programmed in ways that are not authentic to us, just living on these other people's programs, societal programming. This is like really traumatic, you know. And ultimately, of course, we can stay operating on that program, or we can return back to our original programming. And ultimately, you know, we can go for like years of I went for years of psychotherapy. What did it do? A little bit, yeah, I can say, you know, and I'm all for getting body work, you know, spiritual healing sessions and all of this. I'm all for that. But unless we are actually, you know, going and getting back into our original programming, and this also means like basically like owning all of our own bullshit, yeah, myself included, all of us actually owning like what's going on with us, you know, the way that we are just acting out and playing up and just taking ownership of it and deciding to actually do something about it. You know, this is necessary for all of us if we want to move, you know. It's like, okay, if we look at, you know, the evolution through healing, you know, and initially will be some like traumatized, messed up person, a lot of people, most people. Then you kind of go through this stage where you're like, oh, I'm a victim. It's like the government did it to me, or whoever did it to me, or whatever, and that's why I'm all messed up, you know. And then you get in that place of victim consciousness, which is a really, really important part of our development. But if we get stuck in that stage of victim consciousness, we are just gonna, it can take us really, really bad places, to be honest. You know, it's not a good place to stay for too long. And even having healing, receiving healing, this is all good, but nobody's going to fix our stuff for us. Sure, we can get balanced, we can get activated, but we need to be the ones that go there and we work on ourselves, we work on our self-development, we work on our relationship with our partner. It's all about us taking that personal responsibility, whatever we've been through, because, you know, we can be like, oh, you know, I was abused, I grew up in a cult, so this happened, that happened, my parents abandoned me, I had such a tough time. But it was only when I turned around and I was like, oh, you know, I'm actually going to take responsibility for me. That was only when things really started going, like, where my life started coming to a much, much, much better place, when I was actually going, oh, and owning things that are like much easier to project onto someone else. But we also need to understand that in some way, we do have a choice with shaping our destiny. As much as we need to give love to ourselves, give sympathy to ourselves, give understanding to ourselves, we can also understand we can give power to ourselves as well. And that comes through radical self-responsibility. So I found that since COVID, people, me included, have been craving human touch and intimacy, but having a healthy relationship is another matter. I mean, you know, I'm not here to tell people what to do, but it seems like a lot of, especially a lot of Americans I'm talking to, it just seems like every American I'm talking to, they're talking about opening their relationship up, or they have opened up their relationship, or things were going on in their wrong in their relationship, they wanted to open it up, everything's gone even worse, it seems, what I usually hear, everyone's wanting polyamory and so on and so forth. And it does seem like people are less able to connect, and they view the solution, oh, the relationship's not going well, let's sleep with other people. I mean, forgive me for being cynical, but then I have this friend who's a massive polyamory advocate, and he actually said the same thing, which is, don't open up your relationship if things are going wrong, only do it when things are going right, which definitely makes sense when I read that post by this guy. So there's a lot of grief that needs to be moved at the moment. Right now, this time of year, huge amounts of grief going on. Creates distance in relationships for all other reasons, perhaps. I mean, if you imagine, grief is an energy that just kind of is really, really sinking down. And it's actually the balancer of grief is actually anger. It pushes the energy back up. Yeah. So have we got any questions now? Are people interested in doing an energy practice? I know we've been here almost 2 hours. This is long. There's still 21 guys here. Okay, how are we doing? Oh, hey, if you have never ever done any Taoist energy hacks with me, can you give me a 7 in the chat right now if you've never ever done any Taoist energy hacks? Oh, Alex, Mari, Elisa. Hang on, you guys have never been to my class before and done Taoist energy hacks. I'm sure some of you guys have been in the classes before. Tanya. Nats, yeah, I know Nats you have, yeah. Okay, yeah. So the principle behind Taoist energy practices is that we wherever our attention goes, the energy flows. And this is how it all works. And if you've read about Mantak Chia and people having multiple orgasms, and you've heard about people squeezing their perineums to try to have multiple orgasms, I'm just going to say, not only can this cause health problems, but it's actually it's completely unnecessary. You can just use your mind to have multiple orgasms, but it's not like most people think. So it's not going to be fantasizing about your hot personal trainer or whatever that's going to get you the multiple orgasms. When I'm saying using your mind, I'm talking about something a little bit different from that. So let's have a look at like the most important place for us to focus is a simple exercise, but our heart actually is the most important place to focus. You know, if we have a heart attack, we're actually gonna be dead in like just a matter of minutes. So I'm talking here about the heart center, which is kind of in the center of the body. Just putting the hands over the heart. This is great for those of us who never did anything before. And when we're doing energy hacks for them to work, it's really helpful for us to be relaxed. So you can actually breathe in and out of your belly. Feeling your belly rising and falling, because this helps to relax. And shutting your eyes, just becoming aware that your eyes are shut, the eyelids are over your eyes. But still you can see. You can see the back of your eyelids. So let's use our intention. So you can just imagine, we're going to use the intention. We're going to imagine we're turning the gaze around 180 degrees and we're looking back and we're ascending our attention into our brain, as if we're looking into our brain. And from the brain, we can look down the throat. And look into our hearts. And as you find your heart, where you feel your heart center is, connect with your heart and start to smile into your heart. It's just a little bit like that you're connecting with a friend, maybe an old long lost friend, and you're smiling to them. And you're sending unconditional, non-judgmental love to this friend who's there in your heart. And we say that the heart is the home of the fire elements. So you can maybe visualize a red fire or glowing embers or a red light as you're smiling. And you feel this red energy, which is the energy of love, growing in your heart. And there's a good reason why many religions talk about love. It's a very powerful energy. And it's the power of fire. It holds the power to burn away energies that don't belong to us. So through this exercise of smiling to your heart, you can start to build a powerful energy of self-love within your heart. So we are using visualization, but this is not the same as just doing a visualization, because we're actually working with an energy that's there. And we direct the attention by looking into the heart, and we filter the energy by smiling. Because it's important to filter the energy, because we can actually create energy blockages through energy exercises. So you can feel your heart opening and expanding in just such a way. It's going to let in those things that are beneficial to you, that protect you from those things which are not beneficial. And you can even allow the red energy, once it's filled your heart, to start spreading through your body and other parts of your being, to start spreading into your cells, filling your whole body and heart and soul with love. And also, when we start to understand what love is, we realize all we need to do is smile and send that love into our hearts. We don't actually, and in fact, I would say we shouldn't try to give love to other people. It's very contrived, because people are so often trying to give from this place of lack. Whereas if our heart is full, it then fills the body, it then fills the aura. And then we just start effortlessly showering love down onto other people without even trying. Just the same as I love coming here, giving this talk to you guys, and I do this out of self-love, but I also know that because I have enough of my own cultivated energy, I am benefiting from this sharing. Whereas if I was doing this without having my own supply of self-love, it would not be so fantastic for me. So I invite you to just open your eyes to sleep, leaving that love in your body, but especially feeling it centered within your heart. And come back into the room. And this is like the most simple Taoist exercise, but I know a bunch of you had said you never tried any Taoist exercises before. So this is like an amazing, amazing place to start. Just working on building this self-love. This is like the first step, pretty much, So yeah, I'm curious, like, who here is kind of enjoyed this and be like, wow, I want to learn more about how to do this stuff. Like, I'm just curious if you're wondering about, can you give me an 8 and an infinity symbol in the chat if it's left you going like, wow, I want to learn more about this. Yeah, I mean, from when I first found out, I was like, I was just, I went like just obsessive into it. It's so interesting. 8 8 infinity infinity. I like the double eight there. So yeah, yeah. So I hope you guys got the chance to like pick up my WhatsApp number if you've put an 8 down there, or yeah, just if you've got my WhatsApp number there. Let me give that one more time. And yeah. Yeah, I already have a pretty strong meditation practice. I'm curious to see how this goes to bring my energy up to attract a partner that mirrors the higher frequency. Yeah, in terms of the smiling to the heart is like a powerful exercise. I personally definitely when people are learning this, I recommend not to leave behind other energy practices and not do them at the same time. The reason being about spreading out the energy too thin, but also this stuff, even though it can seem in a way like it's similar to other practices, it also works on a very, very different level as well. And yeah, I will say the smiling to the heart is powerful, but obviously like it's a very basic exercise. And when we're looking at like wanting to attract a divine partner and so on, usually there's like some other works to do in terms of clearing out that which is not belonging to us, because we are attracting things to us that are mirroring what's within us. It's not perhaps things that we want in there. But even I found like I was having partners that for various reasons were not a fit for me. And then suddenly I just got this really like divine perfect person that didn't seem like real. It didn't actually seem real. Yeah, it really and at some point, and it wasn't even, the funny thing is, it wasn't even at a point in my life where I would look back and go, oh wow, I was so balanced at that point, I was so perfect. If anything, there was a point I look back and I'm like, oh, I was a bit messy at that time. It's funny how it works, sometimes when we're like being, oh, I'm so balanced, I'm so perfect, and then sometimes actually when we're all messy, it can be that there's almost more amazing stuff going on. So I'm hoping you guys are going to make it to my challenge on the 27, 28, 29. I do believe it's going to be coming out in the email list really, really soon, hopefully by the end of this week, on the email list, up in the Facebook group as well. And if people want more, if you want more information, or you want a free 10-minute consultation, do just reach out to me via WhatsApp. So, oh yes, so the Facebook Live, it did work. So